My piece over the weekend: if Iran wants to eat, it has to obey the US. Iran's only crime is we decided not to fold, said Javad Zarif, the foreign minister of Iran, as reported by the Asia Times' Pepe Escobar. Zarif evoked Secretary Mike Pompeo, who is apparently trying to parachute himself out of the State Department and back to Kansas, Ukraine refers. Today, the Secretary of State of the United States says publicly if Iran wants to eat, it has to obey the United States. Since 1979, and except for a brief interregnum during the presidency of Barack Hussein Obama, the US has been determined on a collision course with the Velayat-e-Faqih, known as Islamic Government, is a book by the Iranian Muslim cleric and revolutionary Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, first published in 1970, and probably the most influential document written in modern times in support of theocratic rule. The end of the brief interregnum to which I referred was pronounced, and of course theatrically, when President Trump pulled the US out of the 2015 nuclear deal, a pact which had traded limits on Iran's fuel program for a relaxation of international sanctions. President Trump has been a big proponent of coercive financial, currency and sanction warfare, and his policy of maximum pressure on Iran is that policy's apogee. The Shia crescent is burning from Syria through Lebanon, from Iraq to Yemen, but Tehran has always been the prize. Bloomberg asked last week, Iran unrest raises a question: is maximum pressure working? Anti-government protests in Iran left buses and banks burned, hundreds under arrest, and the internet blocked, and an unconfirmed number of people dead. The unrest was sparked by Tehran's decision last week to both ration and raise the price of gasoline. But there was ready tinder to be lit, consisting of the sorts of frustrations that have stoked violence around the globe in recent months, from Bolivia, Chile and Venezuela to Hong Kong, Iraq and Lebanon. Crude oil exports, on which Iran relies for much of its hard currency earnings, have fallen to about 250,000 barrels per day, from a peak of 2.5 million barrels per day in April last year. The IMF has forecast a 9.5% contraction for Iran this year, and inflation is clocking 36%. Clearly, we are witnessing a global phenomenon from Latin America to the Middle East, to Hong Kong, and the wave of protests shaking the world resembles a global uprising against neoliberalism, Middle East eye. And it does behove us to diagnose the disease. Otherwise, we will be prescribing the wrong medicine. For example, take Bolivia and Latin America in general, where the prescription of the likes of Janine Áñez and Jair Bolsonaro, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, is to take neoliberalism to the ultimate extreme. They're killing us like dogs, common dreams. China and even India are seeking to yin-yang the periphery. This is a global phenomenon, and Iran is reaping similarly a whirlwind. However, what is also clear is that Team Pompeo is seeking to accelerate the Iranian situation towards a denouement. Of course, the origins of the protests are spontaneous. However, Pompeo has some very curious bedfellows. Marc Owen-Jones tweeted, Mike Pompeo tweeted on the 21st of November a request in Farsi for Iranian protesters to send in videos of the regime's crackdown in order to expose and sanction the abuses. Both tweets, including the translation, got a lot of retweets, but by whom? He downloaded the retweets of each tweet. For the translated tweet, he analyzed 3,600 individual accounts that retweeted it. Interestingly, the most cohesive community and most commonly biographical detail was once again MAGA. Indeed, 825 of the accounts retweeting it. As we've come to expect, many of these MAGA accounts were created in January 2017 and January 2018. This is the same type of profile we've seen accounts tweeting for a hard Brexit. Pompeo has allied himself with the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran and its cult-like leader Maryam Rajavi, who tweeted, "The whole issue is that the Velayat-e-Faqih regime is on its last leg." The alliance of Pompeo, the MAGA tweet army, Maryam Rajavi and the MEK is just not credible. It's incredible. Of course, Arab NATO, which includes the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the GCC and Israel, is a lot more credible, and they are surely guiding the inferno. However, if a civil war is ignited in the Shia crescent, and the nature of the hybrid warfare indicates this is the direction of travel, the implosion will engender catastrophic consequences which will be impossible to manage and will surely imperil Arab NATO itself. Oil is the purest proxy and is at an 8-week high.